Terrific. Turn out the light at the last person, please, when we leave Scotland. Devolution will be a disaster. We have devolution, it's not a disaster, but the very same tactics were used by the Conservative Party in the 1970s and the 1980s are ironically now being used by the Labour Party about why independence is bad. And I think people in Scotland, having now heard those arguments used for 3 elections, exactly the same arguments, are beginning to think, do you know what, I'm not persuaded by that. I may have questions, I may not want everything that the SNP offers, and there are many people out there who vote for us who remain to be convinced about the end aim that we want to get to, but they know that we're offering people a referendum in which they will have a choice. And that's the right way to do it. So probably a bit of a long-winded way of answering your question, but you're absolutely right about establishing competence, establishing credentials, to be able to give people confidence to move on.
I've got a question just while we're here. Do you find that since for the past year, from an outside perspective, the Scottish government, the SNP government, looks to have performed a lot better than people expected it would, because it was a first-time government? Have you found that you're taken a lot more seriously from the Westminster point of view because of it?
Yes, very, very much more seriously. And interestingly, more so by English colleagues, whether English MPs or English ministers in the UK government. You'll find that Scottish Labour ministers or MPs still have particular difficulties about the SNP, A having won and B being in government. But you'll find, I find a lot of the English colleagues much more, well, they're sort of not in the trenches on the issues. So I'm talking out of school here, but there was an English minister who came up during a vote last night in the House of Commons and said that he hadn't understood some issue as it pertained to Scotland that he had ministerial responsibility for, and he wasn't sure what to do, so he rang one of our ministers and got it sorted. So they're going, hallelujah, that's the way that it's supposed to work. There are all kinds of private meetings that take place at Westminster about all kinds of subjects, something we talk about, something we don't talk about, and I have to say, I have a very good working relationship with both Des Brown and David Carey, the Scottish office ministers in Westminster. We are professional politicians, so I don't see the point of falling out about things that we know we have different views about, and the things where we can work together, we should do that. In terms of being taken seriously, we are being taken very seriously, and not just by sort of people within the political classes, but within the diplomatic community. It's absolutely amazing the interest that's been shown from elsewhere about where Scotland's going. Ambassadors in London who don't have a diplomatic presence in Edinburgh won't even know what's going on. There was absolutely no interest in that under the last administration, certainly in the second term. In the first term of devolution, you had various countries opening up consulates in Edinburgh, being very interested in what devolution might mean, and then when the administration that was in before ours wasn't particularly ambitious, they basically picked up their tents and left. But now people realise there's a government that is ambitious in Scotland and people need to know what's going on. So yes, we are taking it a lot more seriously.
I think we have time for maybe one more question. I'll let you know.
Sounds good. I'm interested in obviously briefly, I know this is probably a longer question, but as a foreign policy specialist and an EU enthusiast and a nationalist, if you think there's any lessons that can be learned from the situation in Belgium?
Yes. Well, the first thing is I would never tell anybody anywhere else how they should be managing their own affairs. So I will answer your question obliquely, because it's for the good people of Belgium, however they define their identity, to find the answer to their own question. I've spoken to colleagues from other parts of Europe who have aspirations for self-government, and I'm often struck by the cultural dimension or the ethnic dimension to the debate in their region or stateless nation. And that's something that I find particularly difficult. And I would always urge people, if they have aspirations for self-determination, that you have to bring everybody with you. And as an example of that, what I mean by that is my constituency has the second highest proportion of people in Scotland who are not born in Scotland. It's about 19% of the population, almost exclusively from England. And I get as much of a vote from that part of my constituency as I do from the other 80%. Why? Because what I want is good for everybody, I believe, who lives in Scotland. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter language you speak, doesn't matter what religion you have, and that would be about the only issue I would get on my soapbox and say to people elsewhere, whether Belgium or elsewhere. If there's any bloodshed or ethnic discord, it ain't worth having. So bring people with you, be democratic. The progress that I seek is for a better country, a better standard of living, better engagement in the world. I don't define my politics by what I don't want or who I don't think that I am.
On that, I think we'll end it for tonight. Thanks to everybody for coming along. Thanks to Angus as well. A couple of announcements to make for next week. Our next speaker is Lord David Owen, who's going to be in Old College, Lecture Theatre 175, next Friday at 1 o'clock. You'll probably get an email about that during the week. There's still ball tickets available. The ball's on the 8th of February for anyone who wants to get dressed up in a nice tux or a lovely dress. Feel free to go and buy. We'll be in the Human Being every day at 1 to 2. And our lovely sponsors, KPMG, are having a drop-in in Potterrow on Monday afternoon from 12 until 3. So if anyone has a burning desire in investment bank, can go along and set up. Okay.
Can I just say as a last point, obviously you're turning out the Politics Society now because you're very interested in politics, but we run internships with the SNP in the Scottish Parliament, in Westminster, in the European Parliament, and we're very open for people, if they're interested in applying. I would obviously appeal for people's political honesty. If you are somebody of a very strong political persuasion, which is not the SNP, probably not the best internship. We are an equal opportunity employer though, but to a serious point, if people are interested in that kind of experience, I'm always struck by the number of students we have from the United States who come and work with us, and we welcome the help that they provide, but I do think it's slightly ironic that it is people who've come from the other side of the world to have an experience like that. I know there's a different tradition of having the experience of an internship in the United States than it is here, but my experience is that it has proved worthwhile for everybody who's worked with us. So if you're interested in that, don't hesitate to get in touch. Okay.
On that, let's everyone just thank Angus Robertson.